President Abraham Lincoln was frustrated beyond all description. Lincoln could not find a general willing or able to destroy the Confederate army of Robert E. Lee. Actually, Lee was Lincoln's first choice as commander of the Northern armies, but since Virginia chose to fight for the Confederacy, Lee could not fight against his family, friends, and neighbors, so Lee refused Lincoln's offer. Lincoln tried Irvin McDowell, but removed him after the terrible rout at Bull Run. Next, he gave George McClellan the top spot, but McClellan proved too slow and too cautious, so the president replaced him with General John Pope. Pope, in turn, was badly beaten at the second Bull Run, so Lincoln again turned to McClellan. Lincoln soon discovered that McClellan had an incurable case of the slows and had to remove him again. President Lincoln offered command of the main Union Army, the Army of the Potomac, to Major General Ambrose Burnside. Burnside tried to refuse the appointment, saying that he was not smart enough for the job, but Lincoln insisted because he believed Burnside was just being modest. So General Burnside, with tears in his eyes, accepted the appointment on November 5th, 1862. Now, the North had adopted what was known as the Anaconda Plan. The main goals of the plan were to blockade the South with ships to stop cotton exports from going out to the world and to prevent war material from coming in. The North also wanted to control the Mississippi River, cutting the South in two. Union forces also wished to take Richmond, Virginia, which was the capital of the Confederacy. Burnside's job was to take Richmond, and the job of Robert E. Lee and his 75,000-man army was to prevent the capture of the Southern capital. On November 15, 1862, Burnside ordered his army to advance southward against Fredericksburg, Virginia. The capital of the North, Washington, D.C., and the capital of the Confederacy, Richmond, Virginia, were only about 100 miles apart, and right in between the two stood Fredericksburg. On November 18th, the Union forces arrived on the northern banks of the Rappahannock River just across from Fredericksburg. General Burnside faced little resistance. Very few Confederates were in Fredericksburg, and the Union Army probably could have waded across the river at that time. But because the river could rise unexpectedly, Burnside did not wish to begin crossing with the possibility the river might split his army in two. Burnside had planned for this and had ordered pontoon bridges to be constructed, but through a mix-up in orders, these didn't arrive for about 2 more weeks, and that delay gave time for Lee's army of Northern Virginia to arrive in force. The Confederates occupied the high ground behind Fredericksburg. The rebels had a stone wall that ran along the base of Marye's Heights, giving them the advantages of cover and a strong defensive position. General Longstreet's corps would hold the Confederate left on Marye's Heights, and General Stonewall Jackson, commanding on the right, was to keep his corps hidden in the woods. Then the Southerners waited for the Union attack. Burnside issued a proclamation to the citizens of Fredericksburg to leave the town immediately. He wanted the civilians both out of harm's way and out of his way for this attack. Many civilians had no place to go, and they packed up what they could, and they spent the night freezing in the woods. But on December 11th, Burnside ordered his soldiers to lay the pontoon bridges across the Rappahannock River. Robert E. Lee stationed some Mississippi troops under William Barksdale along the riverbank and in the town. These sharpshooters picked off dozens of Union engineers while they were trying to build the bridges. This made General Burnside very angry. He ordered his artillery to destroy the sharpshooters. The Union Canyon unleashed a tremendous bombardment on the Mississippians, forcing them to take cover, but not driving them out of Fredericksburg. The Northern engineers could not build the bridges until the rebels were gone from the area. Union Artillery Chief Henry J. Hunt sent 3 blue regiments across the river on boats. These soldiers, fighting from house to house, finally drove Barksdale's men away. The pontoons were completed, and Burnside's army crossed into Fredericksburg. The Union soldiers in Fredericksburg went into a frenzy of destruction. They ruined everything in their path, the property of private citizens, anything inside their homes. Some federal officers were ashamed of the conduct of their men and tried to stop the pillaging, but they were unable to save the property of the townsfolk. Meanwhile, Lee's 78,000 men waited patiently for the Union attack. At dawn, the Southerners on the hill saw a sight they would never forget. On the plain below was the Army of the Potomac. Over 100,000 troops advancing toward them with flags flying as though nothing could stop them. But the rebels on the hill were confident. One officer said, "A chicken couldn't live on that field when we opened up on it." Burnside divided his army into 3 grand divisions. His left grand division, under General Franklin, was to move east to try to outflank the Confederates under Jackson. A dashing young artillery officer named Major Pellin took 2 horse guns out into the open plain and commenced firing on General Franklin's advancing Yankees. The Bluecoats halted in their tracks at this unexpected development. The Union artillery bore down on Pellin's little force and destroyed one of his guns. But Pellin's remaining gun held off the Union attack for 2 hours. General Jeb Stuart finally ordered Pellin to fall back, saying, "Get back from destruction, you infernal gallant fool." Jackson's troops were waiting in the woods, and there were a lot more of them in there than Burnside thought. When Pellin retreated with his horse guns, Union General Franklin sent a division of General George Meade into the swampy woodland. Meade's soldiers got lucky and stumbled into a gap in Jackson's line. These Yankees pushed the rebels back to their second line. Southern reinforcements soon arrived. These reinforcements pushed Meade's division back out of the woods. Maybe General Franklin should have put more troops in where Meade was making progress, but Franklin decided that the rebels were too strong, and he called off the attack, even though it was against Burnside's orders to do that. Now the action centered on Burnside's right Grand Division. This was commanded by General Sumner. Burnside apparently wanted to use the attacks on his right as a diversion, but his plan for small attacks soon developed into full-scale frontal assaults on the stone wall in front of Marie's Heights. Burnside lost control of the situation. He probably should have rescinded the orders to attack. The Union infantry pushed bravely on toward the stone wall, with Confederate artillery blowing big holes in the blue lines. And at a distance of about 125 yards, the Confederate infantry opened fire. Rebel soldiers, 4 deep, were passing loaded muskets up to their front line. The Southerners loaded and fired so quickly, it created a constant hail of bullets. The Federals could advance no further. The Union troops reorganized and again attacked Lee's strong point. The same thing happened again. The Southerners had never had such an easy victory. The Federal surgeons performed amputations on wounded soldiers in plain sight of the nervous raw recruits on their way to the battle line. It was obvious to everyone that the Union attacks would not succeed. Yet bravely and foolishly, the Yankees attacked the stone wall a total of 14 times on that December 13th. Each attack saw more and more dead and wounded left on the ground. By the end of the day, December 13th, 1862, more than 9,000 Union soldiers fell in front of that stone wall on Marie's Heights. Perhaps 1,500 Confederates were killed or wounded behind their wall. On the other side of the battlefield, where Franklin battled with Jackson, each side lost about 4,000 more soldiers. That night, the groans and screams of thousands of wounded could be heard for miles. A few Confederates, such as one named Sergeant Kirkland, risked their own lives going out onto the field to give water and comfort to their wounded enemies. Burnside was sickened by his defeat. Some say he just wanted to die. He planned to attack again the next morning, and he wanted to personally lead his men to the stone wall, but his generals talked him out of it. The next day, General Burnside ordered his battered army back across the Rappahannock. Lincoln was shocked by the defeat, but he didn't want to remove Burnside as army commander. Lincoln believed that he wouldn't throw away a pistol just because it misfired once. The president gave Burnside another chance. In January, Burnside ordered his army on a secret march to try to outflank Lee's force. But the cold weather and heavy rain turned the Virginia roads to mud. In what came to be called Burnside's Mud March, the entire Union Army was bogged down. The cannons sank to their axles, the Union horses sank to their knees. Even worse, the Confederate scouts knew about the secret movement and held up signs taunting the Yankees. This fiasco, on top of the Fredericksburg defeat, was just too much for everybody. The march was called off after only a few miles, and soon after, Lincoln removed Burnside from command. Almost 200,000 soldiers fought at the Battle of Fredericksburg, making it the biggest battle of the Civil War. The Confederates lost about 5,700 soldiers at the Battle of Fredericksburg, but the Northern forces lost more than twice as many, almost 13,000. Pete Longstreet said, "If courage and daring would entitle soldiers to victory, then those Yankees should have been victorious." A Northern newspaper man said, "It can hardly be in human nature for men to show more valor or generals to manifest less judgment than was shown at the Battle of Fredericksburg." General Lee said, "It is well that the war is so terrible, or we should grow too fond of it."
Junior Civil War Reenactors is a unique learning experience that has been highly praised by students, parents, and teachers. The program has been featured on television and in newspapers.
A major Civil War battle was fought this week in Weld County. It was actually part of a living history lesson. The soldiers came from the ranks of a middle school in Evans. Roger Wolf reports from the front lines.
The fate of the Confederacy is at stake here on the outskirts of Chattanooga. The rebel forces are fighting to keep the Yankees from taking Tennessee.
They're trying to take our land away.
The blue and gray skirmish back and forth through the woods and hills. This is shaping up as one of the bloodiest battles of the Civil War.
The fighting is fierce there on the banks of Chickamauga Creek, and the casualties are mounting.
I think I got shot 3 times now.
The withering fire from cannon and rifles tests the courage of soldiers on both sides of the battle.
How do you keep your men motivated?
We don't, really. They're just sort of roaming around. You yell at them and then they usually listen after a while.
And it isn't just men fighting in this battle.
I didn't think they let ladies fight in the Civil War.
Now they do.
Now is 1993, and these soldiers are students from 2 schools in Evans. They're staging this battle to bring a history lesson to life.
The Battle of Chickamauga was about the last big Confederate victory. It was the biggest battle of the Western theater.
Darrell Osborne is a history buff who started a business recreating battles for schools. He provides the uniforms, guns, swords, cannons, and sound effects. The schools provide the soldiers, who get a learning experience no book or movie can duplicate.
There's a lot more to it than books say. It's a lot harder.
What I've learned from this is how difficult it must have been for the people to organize this sort of thing. I mean, we've got about 100 students out here, and I feel like I've just been working like crazy to get it ready. And in this particular battle, there were like over 60,000 men on each side.
I don't think it'd be really fun in life, but this is just for fun, so it's pretty cool.
After their fun day on the battlefield, these student soldiers head back for the classroom, back to 1993. In Evans, Roger Wolf, 9 News.
Thousands of students have actively participated in this program. The purpose of Junior Civil War Reenactors is to create a lasting interest in Civil War history. The students, 4th through 7th grade, develop true appreciation of the subject because they experience a little bit of the Civil War soldier's life. They learn and remember details that normally have little meaning to them if only read from a book. Uniforms are hot. Equipment is heavy. Marching makes the feet tired. Officers can be obnoxious. The terror of being in a battle. These things serve to create a feeling of respect and appreciation for the hardships and dangers of the Civil War soldier. Yet, students report the experience as one of the most fun things they have ever done at school.
What did you think? Did you have a good time?
Yeah.
Did you guys learn something?
Yeah.
What'd you learn? What was the biggest thing that you learned?
We learned how hard it was to carry all that stuff on our backs.
And hot clothes?
Yeah. I'm learning that they had a lot of tough times and that if you didn't do a lot of stuff right, you get killed.
The battle is preceded by about 10 hours of training spread out over 2 weeks. The students get a bit of light military drill and are taught how to fight the mock battle safely. They are encouraged to employ their best acting skills as a movie is made from each reenactment. The kids love it and exhibit newfound self-control. Students are shown real Civil War equipment and they are encouraged to ask questions throughout the training period. Safety rules and procedures reinforce respect for the safety of fellow students. The students realize that although reenacting a battle is fun, being in a real Civil War battle would not be fun at all. Most students come away with an enlightened and sobering understanding of the American Civil War. The lesson makes them better informed world citizens. Students develop a camaraderie with their unit and their school. Parents are delighted when their children, possibly for the first time, come home enthused and excited about history.
My daughter has been talking about it for months.
Really?
And every night when she comes home and Daryl's been there working with him, she goes through everything that he's talked about.
The conversations at home prior to this actually happening, an amazing amount of awareness and the futility of the whole thing. So it's been a good learning experience.
Do you think that this would be something that could be used more widespread in our community?
Well, I'd like to see it. I think it'd be wonderful. You know, get them out of the classroom and do some real life experience type things. Reenactments or...
Exactly.
I think it's sink in a lot more.
Teachers are enthusiastic about this program because of its integrated curriculum possibilities.
This is the second year that we've had Daryl come and do a Civil War battle reenactment. And in all the things that we do in the summer, when the kids came back this year, they wanted to know if Daryl was coming back. When they found out he was, some of them planned their whole summer around this week. He's a good storyteller, and he has little stories that he talks about the Civil War that really brings the era to life for these kids. They're not only learning about the Civil War, but one of the benefits that I saw, one of the things I was impressed about was that they also learn how to shoot a movie. They set up scenes and take a shot, and it's just another benefit of the program that we've noticed.
It is a truly unique program that can involve teachers, parents, and the community. Best of all, the Junior Civil War Reenactment program is not expensive. To find out how to get a reenactment for your elementary or middle school, please contact Junior Civil War Reenactors. Area code 303-935-9292.